Hey guys, Rexter here, and welcome back to a brand new FNAF Security Breach Ruin video. In today's video, we will be discussing which ending could actually be canon in FNAF Ruin, as well as the meaning behind all three endings, obviously including the elevator ending, the Fredbear ending, known as Brazil, and the Scooper ending. We'll also be doing a theory breakdown of what this could mean for the future of FNAF Security Breach. And later on in the video, we will be bringing Daco back to explain his theory on this same topic. And what he shares might be quite shocking to some of you listening. So if that sounds intriguing to you, go ahead and grab some popcorn and a beverage, and let's go ahead and dive in. So the first place that I would like to start is actually the Brazil ending. Now to get this ending, as you're running with Cassie through the tunnels, before making that final right towards the elevator, you actually need to make a quick left. If you do this correctly, you will see a big cutout of Fredbear, similar to the one that we saw in the Freddy and Friends teaser for FNAF Security Breach. Now, running up to this thing, you actually see that you're not allowed to put on the Vanny mask. However, if you get very close, at the last second, it will say toggle R in the bottom left, and putting on the Vanny mask will unveil the secret ending. Now, as you look at this beautiful landscape of Vanessa sitting by a tree eating ice cream, as well as Gregory and Helpy both looking happy as balloons fly behind them, it's hard not to notice the words that are being spoken. As Gregory says, "Cassie, I'm okay, I found a spot to hide," through the walkie-talkie, then begins to breathe very panicked and heavily, eventually fading to black and showing the credits. So what does this ending mean? And why is it called the Brazil ending? And that is where my theory comes in. You see, unless our favorite characters are sitting on a hill somewhere in Brazil, I believe this ending is actually a reference. And that reference being to what Redditors have pointed out as Brazil, a film in 1985. And the story follows a character named Sam, who navigates a surreal, oppressive society, chasing dreams and love entangled in mistaken identities. At the end of the film, Sam escapes torture from a government facility, finally escaping and leaving the city, or so we thought. You see, in reality, Sam escapes into a dreamlike state after being captured, reuniting with the love interest in the film, Jill. Now, reality blurs as they soar away, questioning the boundaries between fantasy and freedom. As Sam never actually did escape the facility, he just went insane. And this ending was actually all in his head. So what does this mean for the reality of FNAF Security Breach Ruin? Well, it's pretty simple. I believe that Cassie is actually just hallucinating this entire thing, as she obviously didn't actually leave the Pizza Plex, because you get a dose of reality hearing not only Gregory's voice on the walkie-talkie, but also her panicked breathing. And since she has on the Vanny mask, she's probably getting killed or tortured by the mimic, and has no recollection of what's actually happening, turning what should be a beautiful ending into dark horror. Now, if you ask me, there actually are a few flaws in this ending, one being the fact that Glamrock Freddy does not exist at all. And if we are to believe that the Princess Quest ending is the canon ending of FNAF Security Breach, we would at least see his head somewhere. Not to mention how quick and abrupt this ending would be for the FNAF Security Breach series, leaving us not only in suspense, but also wanting so much more from this game. And I do not believe that Steelwool would lead us off on such a cliffhanger. So that brings us to the other secret ending, also known as the Scooper ending. And in order to obtain this ending, you must go around the Pizza Plex, using select camera systems and unlocking the doors to the Scooper itself. Once completed, instead of running straight into the elevator, you actually need to make a quick left. After running through a series of doors being chased by the mimic, you will get to a red button. And once you click that red button, everything goes crazy. The mimic seems to run away for some reason during this scene, but comes back in just enough time to actually get scooped by the Scooper. Now, once the dust settles, the mimic's body is left seen limp on the floor in front of us. And then the camera fades to black. Now let's dive into what this ending means and what it could potentially mean for the future of FNAF Security Breach. Well, for starters, I do believe this is a very cool ending, probably my favorite, as we finally have the chance to pay back the main antagonist of the game. However, this ending would bring a lot of question to the lore of FNAF Security Breach. For one, what on earth could happen to Cassie next? And two, who would be the antagonist for the next game? I guess you can make the case that Cassie could be rescued by Gregory from this point on. And while looking at the body in free roam, I did notice that you don't actually see the mimic's endo within the suit, meaning he could have potentially run off. But I do believe that this ending is also highly unlikely, as it's almost as abrupt as the Fredbear ending. And I believe Steelwood would find a hard time picking up from where this one left off. Daco actually has a really good theory about this ending, and we'll hear more on that later. But first, let's go ahead and jump into the third ending. Also, what I believe is the canon ending of the game. And that ending, ladies and gentlemen, is the elevator ending. Running through the tunnels of the Pizza Plex as the Mimic is in hot pursuit. Eventually, Cassie jumps into the elevator shaft, closing the Mimic's hand behind her. And just as we thought we escaped, things take a dark turn. As we proceed up into the elevator, you hear Gregory's voice come on the microphone, saying that he needs to explain a few things to her, as she was never supposed to be there to begin with, and she was tricked. Gregory also explains that he doesn't know exactly what this thing is. He just knows it's been down here for a very long time, and the Pizza Security program that we spent the entirety of the game disabling was supposed to keep it here. Gregory then apologizes, saying that he knows Cassie did all of this for his well-being. However, they cannot risk being followed. And then he does the most savage thing in all of FNAF history. Cuts the line to the elevator on his own best friend, sending her into the pits of the basement hell. However, as the screen fades to black, we hear a very familiar voice. And that voice is Roxanne Wolf, as she says, Cassie. Now, if you ask me, I believe that this ending actually makes the most sense. And on top of that, contrary to popular belief, I do believe that that was actually Gregory who cut the line. But why would he do such a thing? And to me, the answer is quite simple. Gregory made the choice to cut the line in order to save the world, and not just one friend, as he knows the detrimental effects it would have on the planet if the Mimic did escape, thus cutting the line and having Cassie stay within. Now we can prove that this is Gregory even further. Daco points out that the lines in this elevator scene in the game files say Gregory and not the Grimmick. And the we that cannot risk being followed that Gregory mentioned is most likely Vanessa, him, and Glamrock Freddy. Now let's also play devil's advocate here for 1 second and entertain all the believers that believe it was actually the Mimic who cut the line. If that were the case, and the Mimic actually lost an arm in the elevator, that would mean that he would have had to cut the line to the elevator with just one hand. And I don't really see his reasoning behind it. For one, this would be potentially his only way out of the Pizza Plex. And you're telling me he would cut the line to that just to kill one girl? I find that really hard to believe. Also, what would be the point of pretending to be Gregory at this point in the game? You see, because at this point, we already know that he can mimic the voices of people all around the world. Thus the reason why we were down here to begin with. So why continue to pretend to be Gregory at this point? He could easily just cut the line and bring her back down to him. So I believe in no way is it possible to have actually been the Mimic. But if not, then what does this mean for the future of FNAF Security Breach Ruin? Well, one theory that I did bring up in my What Actually Happened to Cassie video a couple days ago is that I believe we will play in a parallel universe in the next game, synchronizing between two different characters, one being Cassie still within the Pizza Plex and the other being Gregory on the outside. Something similar to like a God of War or the new Spider-Man game about to come out soon. And I do not think that we've seen the last of the Mimic just yet. We also need to take into consideration the Blob. Even though we only saw him for a short period of time at the beginning of the game, Steelwood made no mistake of putting him in here. And my theory is to prove that he is still actually canon. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump over to a call with Daco. Alright Daco, so let's jump straight into this. Which ending do you believe is actually canon in FNAF Ruin?
So, in my opinion, and again, it's just a theory, I do think that the main ending, the first ending that most people get, the elevator ending, is canon, where unfortunately, Gregory makes a decision, or maybe the Mimic, to cut the elevator wire, or does something to the elevator to make it collapse, and Cassie falls down, and it ends off with a pretty good cliffhanger, in my opinion, where we hear Roxanne call Cassie's name right at the end. To me, that's kind of hinting that something is gonna happen after that point, and that's why I think it's canon. Because why would Steel do that? Leave it on a cliffhanger if it's not canon. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. And I feel like the other two endings were really abrupt. Like they just kind of like boom. Because the Scooper ending, where do they go from there, right? Like what is Cassie going to do, and then who's the antagonist after that? Yeah,
exactly. So it's definitely not the Brazil ending. There's no way it's the Brazil ending, because that was the most abrupt out of all of them. I think Steel just added that as like just an extra ending for fun, with a dark side to it. If I know you've already explained it, with the Scooper ending as well, like you said, like if we had to do some pretty weird stuff to get that ending for a start, finding secret cameras on the monitors and stuff. And then, when the mimic goes in and we scoop him and he gets killed, like, you could like you said, like, that's it. Like, when the mimic's gone, the Steel don't have anything else to do after that.
There's not much of a story after that.
I mean, they could make the Blob the villain, but I don't think the Blob is ever going to be the villain. I think the Blob's very misunderstood. We'll talk about that after. But yeah, just the Scooper ending, you can kind of think like, oh, if Cassie scoops the mimic, then she'd escape with Gregory and Vanessa and they'd all be happy. It's a happy ending. But like, it's that just doesn't seem like it's going to happen. I feel like Steel did that again as an extra ending, like they did with Security Breach, just something extra, like a really cool cutscene of the mimic getting scooped, and to show him in a costume as well. So yeah, I just think it's just an extra ending as a reward for finding the secrets in Ruin.
Yeah, but and I think the meaning behind that Brazil ending was really cool as well. Like, I would never have put two and two together, but watching that movie, because I actually went back and watched like the ending scene of the actual Brazil movie, the film, and it's pretty crazy that Steel will put that into the game.
Oh, I agree. But when you really think about it, it is a very dark ending, right? So you can imagine Cassie's put on the Vanny mask and she is like hallucinating and visioning like being with Gregory and Vanessa all happy in a happy scene. But when you really think about it, right, she's thinking that, but what's actually happening is the mimic is probably ripping her apart while that's happening, which is really, really dark, really creepy to think about. And I really hope that isn't the canon ending. I don't think it is, but yeah, it was still cool that they put it in.
That would be wild too, because I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the game, if I remember correctly, like as you go through it and you have the Vanny mask on, the MXES calls animatronics from the real world to attack Cassie, right? And they don't actually, like, they pull her mask off before she actually gets attacked. So I don't think is there some type of correlation between she can't die necessarily in the Vanny mask to things inside of that digital realm? She can only die to things physically. Like, is that why the MXES pushes things towards her, like animatronics and things like that, and her mask comes off before you get jump scared?
I don't know. I don't think Steel will thought about it that much, to be honest. I feel like no, I feel like because MXES is literally just like, a virtual thing that you can only see with the mask on. So he can't harm Cassie because he's not real. He's not there. Because when you take the mask off, he's not there, right? Mm-hmm. So, the reason why he summons animatronics to Cassie is because they're in the real world. Like, MXES can't do anything. You can't harm her. So he has to summon the real life animatronics to go to her to stop her from doing what she's doing, because she's listening to the mimic. She's breaking down all of his freaking nodes. Mm-hmm. That's his home, that's his family, and she's killing them all.
The reason I bring it up is because I just think it'd be even darker, right? Like, imagine Cassie in the physical world is getting destroyed by the mimic, but like just like the Brazil movie, I mean, she's kind of lost her mind within that Vanny mask, that AR world. But we'll carry on. So if you think that the elevator ending is the canon ending, right?
Yeah.
For one, I watched your video and you bring up these voice lines that you found in the files.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. Could you kind of expand on that a little bit?
So yeah, there was originally an alternate ending, or they changed the ending that we've got right now, where Gregory actually didn't do anything to the elevator, and he actually said to Cassie, while the elevator's going up to him, just make sure he doesn't follow you. Thanks for, I know what you were trying to do. You were trying to save me, but you're okay now. Just don't let the mimic follow you. So originally, Cassie was going to escape from the elevator with nothing, nothing was going to happen to her. Obviously, it was going to lead to the mimic following them. But it is interesting that Steelwool decided to change that. And, actually, the elevator actually crashes down. I do still think that was Gregory who did that. But yeah, the fact that they did a different ending that was going to happen, and then they changed it to Gregory cutting the elevator, just seems to me like Steelwool were like, yeah, this is going to be the canon ending where Cassie gets to the elevator, whatever happens.
Right. But, okay, so then I guess we segue into, like, why do you think Gregory was willing to sacrifice her, like, to keep the mimic in the Pizza Plex? Why do you think he was ready to risk it all? Killing a friend, you know what I mean? Or attempting to kill him, possibly.
I think it was just a decision that he had to make while the elevator was going up. I think he realised, because he was originally trying to guide her out to the elevator. I think when the elevator was going up, he must have been thinking in his head, hold on, if I make this decision, the mimic's going to get out, and the mimic's going to, kill a bunch of people and cause even more chaos. It's just going to carry on all over again. Me and Vanessa worked so hard to keep him locked and sealed away because we know what he can do. They've both been manipulated by the mimic and glitch trap in the past. In the books, for example, we don't know if it's in the game lore yet. Gregory did get possessed by glitch trap in the books, as well as Vanessa, which is very interesting. So Gregory did get possessed in the game as well at some point, before Security Breach, by the way, not after. Yeah. Both Gregory and Vanessa know how dangerous the mimic is and what he can do. Look what happened in Security Breach. Like, dozens of people died, dozens of workers, dozens of kids killed by Vanny. Like, they know what can happen if the mimic gets out, and it will just happen all over again. History will repeat itself where more people are going to get murdered. And if the mimic gets out, he could go anywhere, right? And Vanessa and Gregory wouldn't know where he'd go if he escaped.
Right.
So that's terrifying to think about. Like, he could go wherever he wanted to. He could take a plane to the UK and come after me.
Oh, wow. That would actually be great.
Oh, okay. But yeah, you get what I mean? Like, they know how dangerous he is. And, I don't want to blame Cassie, but, it is kind of Cassie's fault that this happened. So maybe he's thinking that as well at the same time.
Yeah, it's hard to blame Cassie because, or a true friend, I feel like you would do a lot for them. Yeah. And that I think she obviously had his best interest.
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't think people know how Gregory is in the books and stuff. Like, Gregory is pretty evil in the books.
Yeah, I've heard. No, I've heard.
He's pretty evil. And I feel like Steelwool decided to do the elevator cut with Gregory. I think they wanted to show, like, guys, Gregory isn't as he seems. Like, you might think he's nice and friendly at some points, but he's not. He's actually quite an evil kid.
Oh yeah, going back to Security Breach, you can kind of get, some evidence of that because he was doing stuff like for Chica, for example, when he smashed her in the trash compactor. I feel like that was a little unnecessary. No, there's a few things that he did to some of the animatronics. I was like,
you can think that's evil, or you could just think it's survival instincts. You know,
Sure.
you know, they were trying to kill him, and they were possessed by a glitch trap at the end of the day. But
Sure.
it's still
yeah.
survival instinct. So you can put that with the elevator. Like, he's just doing survival instinct there. Like, he knows. You know, I said on my video, it's like the trolley problem, like with the train. So a train's, I don't want to say, like, there's a choice that you can make where the train's about to hit the train's about to hit a bunch of people, right? Or you can flip the switch where it diverts the train, only killing one person. But you've changed the course of that train. You've decided to do that. You know, what would you do in Gregory's situation? Would you save Cassie, one person,
For the world.
or the mimic escaping and killing a bunch of people?
Yeah, no,
you know,
I agree. But I mean, I think like we're both on the same page then. Cutting the line was worth it.
Okay, I mean, that's a bit mean.
I mean, it is though if you think about it.
I wouldn't say it's worth it. I'd say
It's worth it for the better of the world.
Worth it's a bad word to say.
Okay, fine. What would you call it?
I'd say it was the safest choice to make, because
Okay, sure.
yeah, it was the safest choice to make, because if the mimic got out, who knows what would happen.
Okay, that's fair. But do you think it'll actually work? Like, do you think this is the only way the mimic is going to get out of the Pizza Plex is going up an elevator?
No, I don't think Steelwolf thought this through. I mentioned this in my video. The seal is broken behind him, so he could literally like walk back and go out and then just go through the Pizza Plex to escape. But I don't think Steelwolf thought of that, honestly, because, you know...
I mean...
you know what I mean? I don't think Steelwolf thought, you know, he could just walk back and escape. I don't think they thought about that, to be honest.
And I think the same is true for Gregory, right? Like, he had to have sat there for a second after he cut the line and be like, oh, wait a minute. Like, I just imagine him sitting over where he's at. Because I'm assuming, like, I don't know why people... I don't know how what your stance is on this, but I don't know why people have such a hard time believing that he cut the line because he wasn't physically there. But if they believe that he implanted this whole MXES with Vanessa and all this stuff, you would think he has an additional security protocol if somebody were to get on the elevator that it cuts.
Nobody knows if he's there or not. He could be above the surface. He could be there at the elevator because, you know, he's found out that Cassie's there, right? Him and Vanessa would go to the Pizza Plex, you know? Like, I think at that point when Gregory's there at the elevator, I do think he's near the Pizza Plex at that time. I don't think he was there at the start when Cassie goes in, but I think closer to the end, Gregory starts to make his way back to the Pizza Plex. And I do think that is going to lead to the next game. Which we can talk about now if you want, if you're done with that.
Yeah, that's actually where I was going to go next, is what is your theory on the future of FNAF after this ending?
Yeah, so I do think after that ending, Gregory and Vanessa are going to return to the Pizza Plex. Maybe because they know, the seal's broken and the security's done now. So it's either that the mimic's still going to be around the Pizza Plex when Vanessa and Gregory, you know, go back. Or, which I thought was really cool, is that the mimic's actually in the underground tunnels and Cassie's still alive. And, you know, it's a big like, you know, Avengers style thing where we play as Gregory and Cassie. So Gregory's on the surface around the Pizza Plex, trying to figure out what's going on. But also, Cassie's still she survived the elevator crash, and the elevator's gone further down. So we're going to go through tunnels and go into the sister location, Ruin sister location, a Ruin Fredbear's Family Diner, like caves and tunnels, dealing with the mimic as well. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, no, that would be amazing. I look at it like, I know we've talked about this, you know, off camera, but talking about something similar to like the new Spider-Man that's coming out, where you're playing as both characters in a simultaneous world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
something like that would be awesome. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure, by the way, if you guys didn't know, in the original files of Security Breach, I'm pretty sure, take this with a grain of salt, they were actually like going to set up as actually switching from Gregory to playing as Vanessa at some points in the game.
Well,
So they did have that idea originally, so I don't see why they wouldn't do something like that again. And I think it would be great, you know, we play as Gregory in the first game, we play as Cassie in the DLC, and then, you know, the next game we play as both and we switch around in different locations, different atmospheres, and, you know, different animatronics to deal with. Because if the Mimic's down there with Cassie, you know, I can just imagine the Mimic going down to the sister location and, you know, using those endoskeletons and stuff and scraps to make his own creations to help him, you know, to basically building a new army.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, well, we're gonna wrap up here, but before I let you go, I do want to ask you one more thing. Who do you think the antagonist of the next game will be? The Mimic? Also, I don't know if you saw my video that I did, but there's that weird shadow of Glitch Trap outside of Princess Quest. Do you think that has anything to do with what we could see in the future?
No, he's dead, bro.
Think he got burnt into the wall?
Yeah, I think he's just been eradicated. I think Steelwool did that to show, you know, Princess Quest is it's Glitch Trap, and you know they were all like it was all in that room, right? Princess Quest with the sword in. To confirm he's gone.
On the canon ending of Princess Quest.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I can see that.
So yeah, I mean, it doesn't stop the Mimic from bringing him back. You know, it's a virus, and the Glitch Trap is rumored to have originated from the Mimic. So, you know, the Mimic could do something like that again in the future if he wanted to. If he had the power to. I don't know if he's still got that ability, but you know, we'll have to wait and see. But I do think the Mimic's going to be back, and it's gonna end like in a defeating the Mimic somehow. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I do hope that does happen. They left it on a cliffhanger for a reason, and Steelwool have already said that they want to make more FNAF games in the future. So I think it's pretty obvious.
Okay, but what about the Blob? I know you said something about that real quick.
Yeah,
let's revisit that for a second.
Yeah, the Blob was just added at the start of the game, you know, just to show that the Blob is there, you know, make people think, oh my God, the Blob's still here. I think they did that to show, like I just said, the Blob is still in the location, the Blob is still alive, the Blob is real, the Blob is a real thing, because... You know, I think the Burn Trap ending, when you see the drawing of Burn Trap and the Blob, people might have thought, oh, both are dead. Like, they never existed. Burn Trap and the Blob never existed. But Steelwool was smart, because they probably thought that people would have thought that. They showed the Blob at the start of the game to show, look, Burn Trap ending didn't happen, but the Blob is still around. And I do think that we will probably see the Blob later in the next game or something, still lurking around. I do think the Blob is misunderstood. The biggest theory so far is the Blob is just all the employees that works there, and anybody who died by the Mimic. You know, a big amalgamation of all the possessions and stuff, just all combined into one big monster.
I mean, that's a pretty wild theory, but I could see it being true, actually. So, all right, well, thank you, of course, Dawko, again for your time. Always a pleasure. I appreciate you taking the time. And all right, we're gonna wrap it up here. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, guys, that about wraps up this video here. Big shout out to Daco for taking the time to do that interview. And if you did enjoy this video, do me a huge favor. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Turn on those bell notifications if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, peace out!